The unexpected discovery. Alexander Alex Hayes had spent years believing he had total control of his life. Every decision was calculated, every move intentional. Nothing happened without his approval. But all that changed the moment a little girl with familiar blue eyes looked up at him and asked, "Will you take me home?" At first, it was just a strange request from a child he'd never met. But as he looked into those startlingly familiar eyes, his own eyes, a chilling realization dawned on him. She wasn't just a lost girl. She was his daughter. And he never knew she existed. Alex had built his empire with calculated precision, ensuring nothing slipped past him. At 36, Alex had convinced himself he wasn't built for attachment. Once, years ago, he tried love, but it ended in heartbreak. After that, he'd immersed himself in his work, perfecting his image as a ruthless businessman, a man too focused on success to be distracted by emotions. He told himself he didn't need anyone, that his world was complete just as it was. But all that changed in a single moment. That evening had started like any other. He had just finished a business dinner at one of the city's most exclusive restaurants, closing a deal that would add millions to his firm's portfolio. As he stepped out into the cool night air, he barely glanced at the city lights reflecting off his black Mercedes. He was reaching into his pocket for his car keys when he heard a small voice behind him. "Excuse me, sir." Alex turned, expecting to see a valet or a car parker. Instead, he found himself looking down at a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7, her delicate features framed by thick, dark brown curls. But it was her eyes that froze him. Bright blue, strikingly familiar. His pulse quickened as he looked at her. There was something unnerving in the way she looked at him, as if she knew him somehow. The girl hesitated, swaying slightly before speaking again. "Can you take me home?" Alex blinked, momentarily unsure if he had heard her correctly. A child, alone at night, asking a stranger for a ride. It made no sense. He immediately scanned the area, expecting to see a frantic parent rushing toward them. But the street was silent. "Where are your parents?" he asked, his voice coming out harsher than intended. The girl dropped her head slightly, twisting her fingers in the hem of her coat. "My mommy isn't home," she said quietly. "And I don't know my daddy." Something cold settled in Alex's stomach. He cleared his throat, trying to keep his voice steady. "Who brought you here?" She looked up at him again, her bright blue eyes filled with something he couldn't quite identify. "My babysitter, but she left. I didn't know what to do, so I waited." "What's your name?" "Lily," she replied. He looked at her again, taking in every detail. Her dark brown hair, the slight curve of her nose, the delicate structure of her face, and those eyes. His eyes. He forced himself to stop thinking that. Coincidence. That was all it was. "Where do you live?" he asked. She gave him an address, and recognition flashed in his mind. It wasn't a high-end neighborhood, but it was safe. Still, it didn't explain why a child had been left alone downtown. Alex sighed. He could walk away. It wasn't his problem. But something in the way Lily looked at him, with a quiet trust, with an expectation, made it impossible to ignore her. He sighed. "All right, I'll take you home." Lily's face brightened with relief, as if she had never doubted he would say yes. That unnerved him even more. The unexpected revelation. The drive was silent at first. Lily sat serene, as if riding in a stranger's expensive car was the most natural thing in the world. Alex tightened his grip on the wheel. "You shouldn't talk to strangers, you know," he finally said, keeping his eyes on the road. Lily turned her head slightly, watching him with those piercing blue eyes. "I know. Then why did you ask me for a ride?" She tilted her head, as if the answer should be obvious. "Because you don't really feel like a stranger." "I'm pretty sure we've never met," Alex said. Lily shrugged. You just don't remember." A strange chill ran down his spine. When they finally pulled up in front of a small, modest house on the Upper West Side, Alex turned off the engine. "This is your house?" Lily nodded, but for the first time she looked hesitant. "My mom doesn't like visitors," she whispered. "Do you think she'll be mad that I asked you for a ride?" "Maybe," he whispered back. "Do you want me to walk you to the door?" he asked carefully. Lily hesitated, then nodded. Before Lily could knock, the door swung open. A woman was standing there, and Alex felt his breath catch. "Rachel!" For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them was thick with unspoken words, with memories that had been buried for years. Rachel's eyes widened, flickering between Alex and Lily. Her face went pale as the realization set in. "Alex," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Lily looked between them, confusion written on her small face. "Mommy." Alex's entire world tilted. Because in that instant, with Rachel standing before him and Lily looking on expectantly, he finally understood why the child looked so familiar. She wasn't just any child. She was his. "Rachel," he gasped, the revelation hitting him with physical force. My Rachel, the woman who left without explanation. And now, standing before him, was the proof of what she had taken with her, my daughter. Rachel's face was pale. "Alex, can I explain?" "Explain?" The word came out harsher than intended. He stepped closer, dropping his voice. "Can you explain how I have a daughter I never knew about? You took my child and never told me." She hesitated, then backed up, gesturing for him to come inside. He followed her. Rachel turned to him, hugging herself. "I never wanted you to find out this way." "Then when?" His voice was controlled, but the anger was boiling beneath the surface. "When were you going to tell me, Rachel? When she got married? Or were you just never going to tell me?" "I didn't know I was pregnant when I left, Alex." That stopped him. He stared at her, processing her words. "What?" "I found out weeks later, and by then it felt too late. You had made it clear your work was your priority, that family wasn't something you wanted. I told myself I was doing the right thing, that if I told you, you'd feel obligated, and I didn't want that. I convinced myself she'd be better off without you. You had no right to make that decision for me," he said, his chest tight. "I know." She trembled. The silence filled the space. The weight of 4 lost years pressed on Alex's shoulders. He had a daughter, a little girl who had gone to sleep every night without knowing he existed. He turned, looking at Lily, who was watching him intently. She had no idea how much had just changed. "I want to know her," Alex finally said, his voice firm but quiet. "I want to be in her life." Rachel hesitated. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Okay." Earning the title. The following weeks were a blur. Alex rescheduled his life. His days, once packed with high-stakes negotiations and business travel, were now structured around visits with Lily. Nothing mattered more than this. The first visits were tentative. Lily was polite but reserved, treating him like a guest. She was cautious, watching him closely, trying to figure out what kind of person he really was. He sat on the lawn, built blocks, and let her win every game. He was trying to earn her trust. One afternoon, while they were sitting at the kitchen table coloring, Lily spoke without looking up from her paper. "Are you going to leave?" Alex's heart seized up. "Why do you think I would?" She shrugged. "People leave." "I'm not going anywhere, Lily." She finally looked up, her bright blue eyes searching his face. "Do you promise?" It was such a simple question, but Alex knew it meant everything. He nodded. "I promise." That night, Rachel walked him to the door. "She likes you," she said finally. "I like her too," Alex admitted. Rachel hesitated before speaking again. "I was afraid to let you in. I still am." He turned to face her. "I get it, but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Weeks turned into months. The tentative visits became routine. Lily now greeted him at the door with an excited smile. She asked him questions. What was his favorite color? Did he like ice cream? She was piecing him together, trying to understand who he was, and if he was someone she could rely on. One afternoon, Rachel asked him to pick Lily up from preschool. It was a simple request, but to Alex, it meant everything. It meant she trusted him, letting him assume a normal, real part of her life. He arrived at the small school, feeling more out of place than ever. The doors opened, and a flood of children streamed out. The second Lily saw him, her entire face lit up, and she ran toward him at full speed. "Daddy!" she shouted. The word stopped him dead. She had never called him that before. His heart hammered as she reached him, throwing her arms around his waist without hesitation. He hugged her back, stunned, overwhelmed, but more certain than ever that this was exactly where he was supposed to be. "I made you a picture," Lily said, pulling out a crumpled piece of paper. It was a drawing of the two of them, holding hands. And for the first time, beneath his stick figure, she had written one word: Daddy. That night, Rachel watched him from the doorway. "She called you Daddy today, didn't she?" she asked softly. Alex nodded, still feeling the weight of it. "Yes, she did." Rachel looked him in the eyes, her expression settling into a quiet certainty. "You really aren't going to leave, are you?" "No," he said, his voice firm. "I won't." Rachel studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Good." Home, months later. Alex sat on the living room sofa with Lily curled up against him, asleep. His suit jacket was off, and the scent of crayons and homemade food was his new normal. He had traded his carefully controlled world for one messy with love, and he wouldn't change it. Rachel walked in and smiled softly at the sight of Lily asleep against him. "She's getting comfortable with you?" "Yes," he said, his voice quiet. "She is." Rachel sat down beside him. "You were right, you know," she said softly, "about me making the decision for you, about not telling you about Lily. I wish I had known sooner," he admitted. "But I'm here now. That's what matters." Rachel looked him in the eyes. "You are," she said, almost to herself. "You really are." The silence that settled between them was not awkward. It was the kind of silence that came when words were unnecessary, when everything important had already been said. Lily stirred slightly against him, and Alex instinctively placed a gentle hand on her back, steadying her. Rachel watched the movement. "She loves you," Rachel whispered. "I love her too." Rachel gently placed a blanket over Lily's small body. Alex didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know how long it would take for Rachel to fully trust him again, or what the future held for the three of them. But as he sat there, his daughter asleep against him, and Rachel at his side, he knew one thing for certain. He wasn't going anywhere. This wasn't just a temporary moment in his life. This was his home. Chapter 4. The Rebuilding of Us. The quiet, comfortable silence in the living room was a world away from the awkward tension of their initial meetings. Alex was now a fixture in the brownstone on the Upper West Side. He wasn't just visiting Lily. He was living a dual life, ruthless CEO by day, present father by evening and weekend. But while the title Daddy felt natural, the relationship between Alex and Rachel remained in a careful, fragile limbo. They had mastered co-parenting, but they avoided the past, afraid to crack the foundation they had painstakingly rebuilt. One Friday evening, after Lily was asleep, Alex stayed behind to help Rachel clean up. It had become their quiet ritual. "She's excited about the zoo trip tomorrow," Rachel said, wiping down the counter. "She still thinks you're a magician for knowing the name of the tapir." Alex chuckled. "I Googled it in the car. 10 minutes of research for a lifetime of respect." He paused, stacking the clean dishes. "Rachel, we need to talk about the us that isn't Lily." Rachel stopped, her back to him. The dishcloth froze in her hand. Alex, we have a good system now. We're stable for Lily. I don't want to risk that. I don't either, he said honestly. But we're walking on eggshells. We have 4 years of pain and silence between us. If we're going to build a real future, we can't keep pretending the past didn't happen. Rachel slowly turned around, her expression weary but resolute. What do you want to talk about? I want to talk about why you left, Alex said, his voice low. You said you thought I'd feel obligated, that I valued work over family. And you were right. The old me would have resented the obligation, but you didn't give me the chance to become the man I am now. Why? Rachel closed her eyes for a moment. When I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified. You were closing the biggest merger of your career. You were untouchable, obsessed. I saw the man I loved disappearing into his ambition, and I couldn't risk bringing a child into that cold world. I couldn't risk you looking at Lily and seeing a distraction instead of a daughter. And you thought running away was better than giving me a choice. It was self-preservation, Alex, she admitted, her voice cracking, and a deep, profound regret that I carry every day. But seeing you now, seeing the man who sits on the floor drawing crooked hearts, that's the man I needed, and the man I never thought you could be. Alex walked to her, placing his hands on her shoulders. I can't rewrite those 4 years, but I've changed, Rachel. Not for Lily's sake, but because she showed me how empty my success was without her. Without you. He didn't rush the moment. He simply let his truth stand on its own. Rachel looked at him, searching his eyes. The eyes that once reflected only ambition, but now showed vulnerability. She didn't forgive him with a declaration. She simply leaned into his touch, a quiet, powerful acknowledgement that the walls between them were finally down. The ultimate test, choosing the life. The burgeoning connection between Alex and Rachel was soon tested by the demands of Alex's professional life. His sudden shift in priorities had already caused ripples at his firm. His chief rival, Mark Benson, a man who lived and breathed Wall Street's old ruthless code, saw an opportunity. Mark began lobbying the board, subtly spreading the narrative that Alex was losing his edge, distracted by his unexpected domestic situation. He suggested that Alex should take a less demanding role to focus on his family crisis, effectively pushing him out of the CEO position. The situation came to a head when the board called an emergency vote on a major, high-risk acquisition that Alex had been pushing for. Mark planned to use the meeting to force a no-confidence vote, positioning himself to take over. That morning, Alex was supposed to be in the office by 7 a.m. to prepare. Instead, he found himself sitting at the small kitchen table, helping Lily glue glitter onto a construction paper puppet. "Daddy, is the green glitter for the taper or the giraffe?" Lily asked seriously. "Definitely the taper, sweetheart. The taper deserves some sparkle." His phone buzzed incessantly, emails from his assistant, urgent warnings from his lawyer. He ignored them. He was present. Rachel walked in, dressed for work, her face worried. "Alex, you need to go. Your lawyer called. Mark is pulling a fast one. You risk losing everything you built." Alex looked at the uneven, glitter-covered puppet, then at his daughter's intent blue eyes. He realized the phrase, "losing everything he built," no longer referred to his firm. "I know," he said, turning to Rachel. "But I'm not going to rush to the office and prove Mark's point, that work always comes first. I'm going to show up to the board meeting late, but calm and with a clear mind." He kissed Lily on the head. "Keep the taper sparkly for me." When Alex finally walked into the executive boardroom 2 hours later, he didn't apologize for his tardiness. He simply took his seat, radiating an unexpected calmness that threw Mark off balance. Mark launched his attack immediately, citing Alex's absence and lack of focus. "The firm needs a leader who is present, not one distracted by domestic concerns. Alex, your priorities have shifted. We need to vote on whether you are still capable of running this company." Alex listened patiently. When it was his turn to speak, he didn't defend his priorities. He defended his strategy. "Mark is right," Alex began, his voice cutting through the tension. "My priorities have shifted. They've shifted from working 80 hours a week to working 40 hours a week. Smarter. And as for focus, I'm looking at Mark's proposal, and I see 3 critical flaws that a leader obsessed with ambition and not clarity would overlook." He proceeded to dismantle Mark's argument with surgical precision, using the clear, calm focus he had practiced at his own kitchen table. He wasn't fueled by anger. He was fueled by clarity. He didn't just win the vote for his acquisition. He won the vote for his leadership. By the end of the day, Mark Benson was out, and Alex remained firmly in control. He didn't win by being ruthless. He won by being grounded. That evening, Alex returned to the brownstone. He found Rachel in the kitchen, a slight smile on her face. "So," she said, "did the taper sparkle enough for you to win the board meeting?" "The tapier," Alex replied, wrapping her in his arms, "reminded me that my greatest strength is knowing what to pay attention to, and it's not the stock market." He looked at her, truly seeing the woman who had saved him by leaving him. "I missed 4 years of life with you. I won't miss another day. I want us to be a family, Rachel, all of us." Rachel didn't hesitate this time. "We already are." Their kiss was a promise, not of an easy, perfect life, but of a commitment built on respect, honesty, and the shared, profound love for the little girl who had taught a CEO that the real corner office was always at home. Chapter 5. The anchor holds. The marriage wasn't rushed. Instead, Alex and Rachel spent the next year cultivating their shared life with the same meticulous care Alex once reserved for his portfolio. They went on actual dates, talking not just about Lily's school or the zoo, but about their dreams. The dreams they had buried when their worlds split. Alex sold his Park Avenue apartment and bought a brownstone closer to Rachel's existing place, a space large enough for all 3 of them, and decorated in a style that was a warm blend of Rachel's cozy aesthetic and Alex's modern simplicity. Lily, now 8, was the happiest anchor holding their rebuilt family together. She was the official director of family fun, ensuring that all schedules included time for ice cream, park trips, and, crucially, making sure her daddy never missed a school event. The anniversary of the revelation 4 years had passed since that evening on the sidewalk when Lily asked Alex to take her home. One afternoon, Lily was spending the day at a friend's house. Alex and Rachel were alone, sitting on the front steps of their brownstone, enjoying a rare, quiet moment. "Do you remember what today is?" Rachel asked quietly, leaning her head on his shoulder. "The anniversary of the day I found out I had a daughter," Alex said immediately. "The day I realized my life was a lie." Rachel smiled softly. "I remember the fear. I thought you would see her, get angry, and leave again." "I did see her," Alex confessed, turning to look at her. "But I didn't see an obligation. I saw everything I had been missing. I saw my eyes looking back at me, asking for home." "You did a good job, Alex," Rachel said, her voice filled with deep sincerity. "You earned your way back in. You earned your way back to us." He knew she wasn't talking about his money or his power. She was talking about his consistency. The 1,000 small acts of presence, from reading bedtime stories to showing up on time for every single school recital. The new risk. Alex made a final, significant move in his career. He formally stepped down as CEO, taking on a role as chief strategist, which allowed him to set his own hours and work remotely from Boston more often. He relinquished the constant pressure and the relentless travel that had almost cost him everything once before. But letting go of that power came with an unexpected new challenge, the urge for more. One evening, a former colleague called, pitching Alex a new, incredibly lucrative venture. It was a chance to build a new empire, fully on his own terms. The money was staggering. Alex spent a week wrestling with the decision. The old ambition, the craving for total control, flared up. He was agitated, buried in analysis, slipping back into his old habit of avoiding conversation by hiding behind spreadsheets. Rachel watched him from a distance. She didn't confront him. She didn't accuse him. She waited. One Saturday morning, Alex found a note on his pillow when he woke up. It was from Lily. "Daddy, I left the red crayon for you. Please draw me a rainbow bridge so the tapper can come home. Don't be late for pancakes. Love, Lily." Alex looked at the note and the single red crayon. He thought of the endless ambition that led him to nearly lose his family. He thought of the fragile, precious life he had fought so hard to be present for. He realized he didn't need to build another empire. He already had the most complicated, beautiful, and valuable one, right here. He grabbed the crayon and walked downstairs. He found Lily already at the kitchen table, waiting. "Morning, tapir expert," Alex said, kissing her on the head. "Did you draw the bridge?" she asked immediately. "I did better than that," Alex said, pulling out his phone. He had already composed the email declining the new venture. Then he went over to Rachel. "I'm not doing it," he told her simply. "I don't need another bridge to build. I'm already home." Rachel looked at him, not with relief that he had chosen her, but with pride that he had chosen himself. The better version of himself. Their life wasn't perfect. They still argued over bills and schedules. But it was real. It was present. And it was a continuous, beautiful journey. Alex Hayes had finally learned that the most valuable asset in his portfolio was the small hand that reached for his every night, and the woman who had dared to walk away so that he could finally learn to stay. Chapter 6. The Unshakable Anchor. The following years solidified the foundation Alex and Rachel had so painstakingly built. Alex became the embodiment of the present father, coaching Lily's soccer team, serving as the tapir expert for her middle school science projects, and always, always home for dinner. His company, far from collapsing after he stepped down as CEO, thrived under his strategic guidance. He proved that true power was not in the hours worked, but in the clarity of focus. By the time Lily turned 13, she was a true New Yorker, sharp, independent, and possessing a profound understanding of irony. Her old, quiet trust in Alex had blossomed into the deep, sometimes challenging bond of a father and daughter. The teenage test, the true test of their family's foundation, arrived when Lily entered high school. She was navigating a complex social landscape, and for the first time, the truth about her parents' unique history, the 4 lost years, began to affect her. One evening, after a particularly silent dinner, Lily finally spoke. "Why didn't you tell me, Mom?" she asked Rachel, her voice trembling slightly. "Why did I have to be 8 years old to find out who my own dad was?" Rachel looked at Alex, then back at her daughter, her heart aching. "Lily, I was young and I was scared. I made a mistake, a big one. I thought I was protecting you from a father who wouldn't want you. But he did want me," Lily retorted, looking at Alex, who sat absolutely still. "Yes, she made a mistake," Alex gently interjected, taking Lily's hand. "But I made a bigger one, sweetheart. I was the man who was so cold and so obsessed with his career that your mom didn't believe I could want you. That's on me." He didn't defend Rachel's choice, nor did he criticize it. He accepted the full blame for the environment he had created. "Your mom taught me the most important lesson of my life by leaving me," Alex continued, his voice sincere. "She taught me that my success was worthless without the two of you, and because of her bravery, I got a second chance. We don't have to erase the past, Lily. We just have to use it as a reminder of how hard we fought to be here, together." Lily looked at both of them, her mother, who was crying silent tears, and her father, whose blue eyes held only steady, unwavering love. Seeing her parents, two strong adults, admit their massive failures together was the most profound form of stability she could receive. The anger softened, replaced by a raw understanding. The unbreakable bond as Lily navigated the ups and downs of high school, her parents remained her unshakable anchor. Alex kept his promise of presence. He was there for every crisis. Whether it was a failed history test or a broken heart. One weekend, an old business rival publicly mocked Alex's decision to prioritize family over the CEO title, calling him soft and distracted in a financial column. Lily found the article online and raged to her father. "How dare he say that? You're not soft. You're the best strategist in the world." Alex smiled, pulling her into a hug. "He doesn't understand, sweetheart. He's still chasing the wrong things." The opposite of ruthless isn't soft, Lily. The opposite of ruthless is grounded. And I've never been stronger than I am right now. That night, Rachel watched Alex help Lily edit a complicated school essay. The easy, intellectual partnership they shared, father and daughter, man and wife, was beautiful. Rachel walked over to Alex, her hands resting on his shoulders. "We made it," she whispered. "We survived the fire." "We did," Alex agreed, turning to kiss her hand. "Because you taught me that the only thing worth controlling isn't the stock market, but the small, precious time we have with the people we love." Their life was a testament to the fact that love is not always found in the grand gestures of a first meeting, but in the quiet, persistent commitment of a second chance, earned and cherished every single day. The man who once believed his life was perfect had finally found true contentment in the messy, wonderful, and deeply real life he shared with his family. Epilogue. The true legacy. Years passed quickly in the warm, stable chaos of the Hayes brownstone. Lily grew into a remarkable young woman, a confident college student studying engineering, taking after the quiet brilliance of her unknown grandfather. The 4 lost years were now a mere footnote in a life defined by the continuous, unwavering presence of her parents. The unbreakable family. The commitment between Alex and Rachel deepened with age, turning their repaired relationship into a rare, durable partnership. They were a team, no longer fighting old ghosts but looking forward, united by a quiet understanding forged in crisis. Alex, now in his 50s, was a respected figure on Wall Street, known less for his early ruthlessness and more for his strategic wisdom and balanced lifestyle. He continued to serve as chief strategist, often mentoring younger executives, advising them that true success lay outside the boardroom. One spring afternoon, Alex and Rachel found themselves preparing to host a small party to celebrate Lily's acceptance into her top-choice engineering program. "I still can't believe she's leaving for the West Coast," Rachel murmured, her voice tinged with both pride and sadness as she arranged flowers. "She's ready," Alex said, smiling. "We gave her the anchor she needed. Now she can sail anywhere." He looked at the small kitchen counter where, years ago, he had placed the uneven red construction paper heart Lily had made for him. It was now preserved, framed, and placed prominently on their bookshelf, the full circle. Later that evening, an older colleague of Alex's, Mr. Chen, who had observed Alex's entire career, approached him with a glass of champagne. "Alex," Mr. Chen said, his voice thoughtful, "I remember when you almost walked away from the CEO job. Everyone thought you were crazy going soft. We thought you'd lost your edge." Alex laughed softly. "I didn't lose my edge, Mr. Chen. I found my clarity. I realized that if my career required me to choose between a billion-dollar deal and a 5-year-old asking for a bedtime story, the career was flawed." Mr. Chen looked across the room at Lily, who was animatedly telling a story to her mother, her blue eyes sparkling with intelligence and joy. "Your daughter," Mr. Chen nodded. "She is a beautiful legacy. You built empires. But this is your masterpiece." Alex knew he was right. His wealth was fleeting, his power temporary. But the love, the connection, the sheer effort it took to earn the simple word "daddy" from a little girl who once didn't know his name. That was the true, enduring return on investment. He walked over to Rachel, took her hand, and watched his daughter. The unexpected discovery, the perfect surprise, shine. He had come full circle, from a man who valued control above all else to a man who understood that true happiness lies in surrendering to love. He had lost 4 years of his life, but in gaining his daughter and his partner back, Alexander Hayes had finally learned how to live, fully and completely, present in his own home. Epilogue. The promise in the balance. The brownstone on the Upper West Side remained the unshakable core of the Hayes family. Lily was at college on the West Coast, studying engineering. Her departure left a strange, quiet space in the house, a space that years ago would have been filled by Alex's frantic return to work, but was now filled by Rachel and Alex's rediscovered companionship. Alex was on a secure video call in his home office one crisp evening, closing a major strategic partnership. He handled the multi-million-dollar details with his old sharpness, but now he ended the call abruptly at 6:58 p.m. He used to find satisfaction in being the last one working. Now, he found it in being the first one downstairs. He found Rachel in his kitchen, preparing dinner. "Deal closed," Alex announced, kissing her on the back of the neck. "Good. Did you save the world, or just a few $1,000,000? Rachel smiled, a knowing, gentle challenge in her eyes. "Just a few million," he admitted. "The world can wait until after dinner." They sat at the small kitchen table, the silence comfortable and deep. "Lily calls tonight, right?" Rachel asked. 10 o'clock sharp. She wants to update us on her solar panel project. Rachel put down her fork, her gaze turning serious. "You know, Mark Benson's old position is still open. They offered you the full CEO role again last week, didn't they? No remote work. Back to the tower. Full time." The question wasn't accusatory. It was simply a statement of fact, a final test of his transformation. Alex looked at the small kitchen, not at the value of the granite countertop, but at the memories etched into the wood of the table. Glitter glue, crayon marks, and quiet conversations that saved his soul. "I told them no," Alex stated, his voice firm. "I chose to keep the chief strategist role. It gives me the flexibility to fly out to the West Coast when she needs me, and the time to be here when you need me." Rachel walked over to him, placing her hands on his chest, right over his heart, which no longer felt cold. "You gave up the ultimate title, the total control." "I gave up a paper title for a real title," Alex corrected, looking into her eyes. "My legacy isn't built in steel and glass. It's built right here, on this foundation." He didn't make a grand, romantic promise about their future, because they were past that. Instead, he simply vowed, "I am not chasing any more distance. I stay in the balance." Rachel smiled, her eyes shining with quiet pride. She knew the temptation of the tower would always be there, a magnetic pull for the ambitious man he was. But by choosing the balance, by choosing the quiet hum of their home and the call time with their daughter, Alex was not just closing a chapter. He was writing a new definition of success, one built on a commitment that would be tested and proven true every single day.